He that causes all that exists to exist, he that itself existed. He who directs the sunships of millions of trillions of years, and he who made time, the seed of the universe, known among the ancient Kemites as Amun-Ra and Aten. Among the Hebrews as Ansar, Yahweh, and Elohim. Among the Christians as Lord, God, and Jehovah. Among the Muslim and Islamic world as Allah, the one God. Among the Rastafarians as Jah, Rastafari. Among the Yoruba tribes in West Africa as Odumare. I bear witness that all of these names refer to the same one Almighty God. And it is to him who I give reverence, and it is to him whom I submit. I boldly proclaim that we, the descendants of those black men and women who survived the transatlantic slave trade, are the lost 13th tribe, born here in North America and our Nubian Kemetic lineage. I further proclaim that the blood of all nations flow through our veins, and I greet you in ancient holy words of peace and Hotep,
Maya Hotep,
Shalom,
Shalom Alaikum,
Assalamu Alaikum,
Salam, sir.
Barakani,
Emotashi Barakani,
Alafia,
Lucky the way,
and Ashe. I would like to now read to you the 13 points of what we believe and know. Point 1, we believe and know that we are not to repeat the mistakes of the past prophets and messengers of the Almighty Creator of the heavens and the earth. Number 2, we believe and know that we can only establish an economic base through the application of the knowledge of self and the incorporation of the ideologies of the Honorable Marcus Garvey, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Mahatma Gandhi, and Ben Amin. We believe and know that the prophets and messengers of the Holy Bible, the Holy Quran, and the Kemetic holy books were all black. We believe and know that Jesus Christ of 2,000 years ago was and is a black man. We believe and know that the knowledge of the Almighty Creator goes beyond the books written by the prophets and messengers of the Almighty Creator. We believe and know that in order to promote and coordinate unity, we must first recognize and accept the uniqueness of being able to worship our Creator, regardless of our religious denomination, name, title, ritual, particular dress, or holy book, as long as it recognizes the Almighty Creator of the heavens and the earth and the universe as supreme. We believe and know that it is impossible to tell the truth without exposing the wicked governments of the world. Number 8, we believe and know that the United States government, in collaboration with other European nations, have a denial objective to exterminate dark-skinned people of color off the earth through the act of genocide. We believe and know that some of the most effective methods that are being used today are A, AIDS, B, birth control, C, alcohol and drug abuse, D, gang and domestic violence, E, systematic elimination of trauma centers, the public school system, and public aid within the black communities of America and the world. We believe and know that the last trick that Satan is playing on us is dividing us by our religious differences. We believe and know that the conflict between the various religions are comparable to the conflict between various street gangs within the inner cities of America. We believe and know that the war on drugs and gangs is a diabolical plot to disarm the black community of weapons, break up the black family, withdraw our constitutional rights, also kill and incarcerate young black males under the undercover code name Abel 2029. And number 13, we believe and know that every letter, shape, sound, and numerical value contains esoteric information that completely transcends the specific contextual meaning of the word. And at this time, I would like to introduce myself as the youth minister of the Temple of Mercy Association, Taharka J. Shakur. The TOMA Nation is an all-inclusive black, conscious, righteous movement committed to the empowerment of the black community, founded by our leader and teacher in God, Minister Raheem Kasset Aten, co-founded by Minister Omari Jahi Aten, and our First Lady and Sister Makita Aisha And our purpose is to bring about the growth of a righteous community in accordance with the laws of the creator of the universe, under the leadership and guidance of Brother Minister Raheem Kasset-Ati, to provide solutions to the social and economic ills that plague the community of urban America. And our goal is to re-educate and retrain youth and young adults to develop positive moral values as an alternative to delinquent behaviors, because you can't rebuild a community and not build the minds of the residents of the community to meet the responsibilities of maintaining the community's image. And our mission is to enhance the economic development of our communities by establishing real businesses, real and personal properties, thereby creating jobs and entrepreneurship training programs that will reverse the concept of leaving the community to buying back the community. And our motto, let your light so shine before men that may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. And now I would like for us to stand as we do the salute to the red, black, and green. And may you repeat after me. Here's to this flag of mine.
Here's to this flag of mine.
The red, black, and green.
The red, black, and green.
Hopes in its future's bright.
Hopes in its future's bright.
Africa has seen.
Africa has seen.
Here's to the red of it.
Here's to the red of it.
Great nations shall know of it.
Great nations shall know of it.
In time to come.
In time to come.
Red blood shall flow for it.
Red blood shall flow for it.
Historians shall write of it.
Historians shall write of it.
This flag of mine.
This flag of mine.
Here's to the black of it.
Here's to the black of it.
400 millions back of it.
400 million back of it.
Whose destiny depends on it.
Whose destiny depends on it.
The red, black, and green of it.
The red, black, and green of it.
Old flag of mine.
Old flag of mine.
Here's to the green of it.
Here's to the green of it.
Young men and women shall dream of it.
Young men and women shall dream of it.
Face shots and shells for it.
Face shots and shells for it.
Maidens shall sing of it.
Maidens shall sing of it.
Waving so high.
Waving so high.
Here's to the whole of it.
Here's to the whole of it.
Colors bright and whole of it.
Colors bright and whole of it.
Please is my soul with it.
Please is my soul with it.
Regardless of what is told of it.
Regardless of what is told of it.
Thanks to God for giving it.
Thanks to God for giving it.
This great flag of mine.
This great flag of mine.
And may we remain standing for the singing of the Black National Anthem.
Lift every voice and sing to earth and heaven. Lift the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the misting stars. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the darkness has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
Black power!
Black power!
Black power!
Black power!
Black power!
Black power!
As you were. Again, I am Minister Taharka J. Shakur, the youth minister of this wonderful movement, aka the TOMA Nation. When we come together, it's always a beautiful thing, because we come together not just to worship, as many of our people are doing on this day, on Sunday. They go to worship, they go sing and praise and dance, and again, there is nothing wrong with that. But we come together to worship, because we understand that our people are at war. And if we are not keeping that on the forefront of our people's mind, then we as a people will surely die. Now, I say that to say we are in a month that started off as a day, and then turned into a week that is now celebrated as a month. And I won't go into the details of how Black History Month came to be, but I was hearing someone the other day speak about Frederick Douglass and his whole ideology around this month, around Black people celebrating themselves. And I seen a clip of Morgan Freeman in the interview with that white guy that interviews everybody. And he said, "What is your opinion of Black History Month?" And this was a while ago, every time this video surfaces about him saying, "I don't really like that month because you cannot fit our history in just 28 days. And sometimes 29 as it is this year." But when we think about Black history, do we really see ourselves as a historical people? Why is it that when we are in school, we learn so much about Greek history? We learn so much about Roman history. We learn so much about Europeans and everything that they've done, from Britain to the Americas, to the slander they've done of many races, to the pillaging of many countries. We might even learn a little bit about Islam in grammar school as we're coming up. But they teach us the same few people. And one of their favorite people to talk about in this month is Dr. Martin Luther King. Now, my last lecture at the end of this month, where I will cap off everything that I've been talking about, I really want to go into something that came up in a meeting. They have us stuck on this "I have a dream," Martin Luther King. That he seen this dream of these two children being able to live in peace and harmony. It was this whole integrationist kind of mindset that they perpetuate to us. And then they show us a Malcolm X that hated the Nation of Islam, that was attacking the Nation of Islam after he came out of it. Then they show us people like Sojourner Truth. That's another one that they teach about us this month, and how she was this billionaire, wealthy woman who created perms, right? C.J. Walker, thank you. Sojourner Truth is a different person. Madam C.J. Walker, who created the perms. Sojourner Truth is a whole other story. But we talk about Madam C.J. Walker at this time, and then we talk about all of these famous boxers and Muhammad Ali and the entertainment world. Is a lot of the things that we end up focusing on this month. But why don't we hear the other side of Martin Luther King? See, it was very interesting with this whole case happening with Byron Allen. And it seems like that kind of went mute for a while because everybody is just forgetting about it, it seems. But Byron Allen mentioned he was having a conversation with Coretta Scott King, and she mentioned that that's the speech that they killed him for, was a speech by the name of Two Americas. And in this speech, he really described this beautiful ideal of America, and then he described the reality for Black people. And he said that he's been fighting for the wrong America. He's been fighting to be a part of the wrong America, then shortly after he was taken from us. But they don't publicize that video. If you even look at the comments on the video on YouTube, there are so many people saying they did not find out about this until they heard Byron Allen mention it in his interview on The Breakfast Club. See, that is one thing about Black history that we, and the conversation I want to have about today, to start off my conversation, is when will we as a people start recognizing our history? When will we start telling our story about our people? So many of us have family members who have impacted and changed so many things for the people in our community, but yet we let that go mute in the world. We don't push our stories, but you can go into their communities and they got these businesses been around for hundreds of years, and they talk about their family. They're going to praise their family members, but we don't even stand our families. See, when we talk about our history, it is muddied with hate and rape and I'm trying to think of some other words that really can describe how we as a people look at our history. It's nasty. We don't really want to accept it. We don't see the beauty in the things that we have built, because not be a country by the name of the United States of America if there was not black men and black women here, first enslaved, then after slavery, building America. And now, one of the beauty I want to talk about is something that goes over people's head. And I was having a conversation with my father last Wednesday. And I was really mentioning something to him. I said, man, don't you remember the time of the Great Depression? We learned about that in school, and that was like the early 1920s, and America just was suffering. I said, did you know that was around the same time that Black Wall Street existed? He said, what was Black Wall Street? He said, I broke it down, so I said it was a community in Tulsa, Oklahoma that had international trade, 3, 4, 5 banks inside of it, 2 in the hospitals. You talk about miles and miles of just black-owned businesses striving, had its own shipping company where they were trading with everyone in the world. It was the epicenter for black trade in America. And he was like, wait, what? I thought Black Wall Street was just the Brownsville neighborhood in Chicago. I said, no, that was an extension of Black Wall Street. But Tulsa, Oklahoma is something that really needs to be talked about for our people. And I won't go into Tulsa, Oklahoma, because I got a lecture where I broke down the whole story of Tulsa, Oklahoma. But I won't talk about it today. But what I want to talk about is the history of our people at that time and how integration in black history was the devastation of our race. See, right after slavery, black people didn't want nothing to do with the white man. We was like, okay, y'all gave us our 40 acres and a mule. A lot of black people don't believe we actually got that, but we did. A lot of our families actually did get the 40 acres and a mule. And after they worked on their land and took care of their land, their children was like, I'm not going to stay here. I'm going to migrate. They did the big migration. We all know about the migration of the people leaving the South. And there was a centennial celebration 2-3 years ago of the Great Migration from the South to the North. And we really look at that history. But what came with that? Certain traditions, certain cultures that our people in the South had. A lot of us have descendants. And we all know that there's a family member that's from the South, no matter how long we've been in the city. We all know that there's somewhere that we can trace back to Mississippi, Alabama, Oklahoma, one of those places we can trace back to. But now let's look at that. Why do we as black people have a connection to that area? Why do we need to separate and kind of go back to that area? Why does there need to be a reverse Great Migration? Why are we as a people caught up with not being able to sacrifice what we are today to build a better future for tomorrow? Now, I say that because I've been really having it in my head that there's no, we do it 3 different ways. There's no black gated community that's successful. There is no black conscious community that is gated, that is successful. And then there's no black nationalist community that lives together and is gated. Now, what is the purpose of having a gated community? Go to Chinatown. Do you really see the police driving around? You might rarely see a police officer down now, but that's their community. The Chinese have that community. You go find a Palestinian community in Chicago, it's on the north side. You won't see police officers driving around that community. Why is that? Because they created their own gated community where they live around each other. They're around each other. They do business with each other. That is how trade happens. You go back and look at what we did in the 1800s, the early 1900s. We liked living around each other. We prided ourselves on being each other's neighbor. Now today, how many of us actually know our neighbors? How many of us talk to the people that live right next door to us? See, and this is a conversation I like to have with people who call themselves black nationalists, say that about the unity of our people. And I had a brother talk about playing tag, and I'm not going to really reference this, but that game was very misalluded to the point he was trying to make. And the reason why I say it was misalluded because the game of tag, once I tag you, it's off of me. So it's no longer my job to chase and get you because it's now on you. See, we've been playing tag a lot in the black conscious community. Well, I'm gonna tag the next generation, it's on them, it's off of me. I'm gonna tell my child a little about this information, and God was off me because I passed it on. No, the game that he should have mentioned was catch one, catch them all. See, y'all get the game that I'm talking about. I help you, I catch you now, you help me catch the rest of them. We catch them all together. See, when we talk about our community, and this is something that I really practice, because after I was talking to a person, one of my commanding officers when I was part of an organization called the Black Rider Party, we talked so much, and one day I asked him, I said, do you know your neighbor, sir? And he was like, yeah, it's the old lady that lives right next to me on the other side. There's nothing. I say, how well do you know her? And he went into it, and I started telling him about my neighbors. I said, you see, I have a guy next door to me, and it's funny, I got two neighbors by the name of Mr. James, back to back. When we used to live there, I used to have conversations with Mr. James, and the first name, Mr. James, we used to have very big arguments because I felt that he was, let's say, a sellout. In the sense, me and him had a real conversation where I found out that he was playing tag. He was like, no, when I was younger, I was really about this, and I fought so hard, and I was in the streets, but after a while, I gave up. I had children, and I was like, it's not my job anymore to fight and worry about what is going on for Black people. I thought that me and my wife would become very comfortable and live in this and just be okay. I said, but that's not fair. He said, well, it's not fair for Black people to put it on other Black people. I said, what? I said, we are our own solution. And him talking for about 2 hours after that, and after that, he was like, man, and every morning he greeted me because he felt that I changed his mind. And I have to go into another conversation that I was having with an Uber passenger, or a Lyft passenger, sadly. With a Lyft passenger. Yeah, I like trying to Uber going. And I was really strong with her that it's Black History Month, and I like to have certain conversations to ask me things when they're my passengers. And I asked her, do you think the Black man can exist and live without the white man? She said, no, it's impossible. She said, with the way the world is, the way they educate us, how we need them for everything. And I said, but they haven't created anything. And she said, what do you mean? I said, the light poles that we looking at in the red light that we saw was created by the white man. I said, the car that we're sitting in, the parts and everything that manufactured this was created by a Black man. The technology that you're utilizing inside of your phone that you use to order this stuff was created by a Black man. And when I say Black man, it's interchangeable between Black man and a Black woman. But I'm just saying Black man because that's who we are. When we talk about the buildings and the architect of downtown or Washington, D.C., I'm sorry again, that was a Black man. So why do you think we need the white man? She said, well, you know, I never thought about it like that. I say, because we don't teach our children our history. We don't talk about how great our great-grandfather was and the things that he did and the ideas that he had, and we don't look at the other history of slavery as how the heck did the white man create a cotton gin when the Black man was going to work? Why would he need to simplify the process of the Black man when he was, all we was property to them? No. I still don't personally believe Benjamin Franklin found electricity because do you see a white man holding a kite? Or is he going to use somebody else to do it? Is he going to use his slave to hold that kite to discover electricity? So you have to start thinking about this. Who was Nikola Tesla's teacher? See, they never mentioned who taught Nikola Tesla. Where did he get his information from? But we give so much reference to Tesla and who he was. But who was his teacher? When are we going to actually start paying attention to who we are as a people? Why they take certain things out of the history book? While a majority of our people only know Marcus Garvey as a journalist. That is sad. That you can walk up to a child right now and the most they might know about Marcus Garvey is that he was a journalist. We talk about a man who created an organization of self-governing government for Black people that had chapters all over the world and had more members of his organization than any of us have had in the organization since then. And this was without a cell phone, this was without pay phones, this was without the internet. But this man did it. But all we know about him is he was a journalist. How sad is that here in Chicago, most people only know about Fred Hampton because he was killed by the police. What more do our people know about Fred Hampton except that he was one of the people who was raided and shot up at that Black Panther house? How much do we really know about him? I used to drive past the picture of the mural they have on him. On what street is that? It's off of Madison. It was driving down Madison around California. There was a big mural of Fred Hampton. I remember being young and asking my mama, who was that? And what she told me, that was a man who got killed by the police. He was part of the Black Panther Party. And that was it. But Fred Hampton, he started the Rainbow Push Coalition. A lot of people don't know that. We give credit to Jesse Jackson, but Fred Hampton started the Rainbow Push Coalition. The Rainbow Push Coalition was actually the gangs coming together in Chicago. He had a conversation with the gang leaders in Chicago. He was like, okay, we have to change how we're doing this. He said, because it is not benefiting our people at all. So he brought the people under the red flag, under the blue flag. And he said, well, let's have a rainbow coalition. And he didn't just stop with the Black man. He went to the Hispanics and he was like, hey, we both Black and brown. And then he started the Black and Brown Coalition. But a lot of us don't know this history about Fred Hampton. And then we give a lot of disrespect to Huey because we just call him Huey P. Newton and ignore the fact that he was a doctor. That this man went and got his doctorate degree. That he wasn't just no Black man carrying a gun. He was a Black man who was educated, and they was afraid of that because this man knew the law. That he went to school to study the law because every time the police confronted him, he confronted them. And was like, you can't do this because the law says this, and we have the rights to bear arms. We're not damaging property, so y'all don't have to be here. What? How many of us know about Stockley Carmichael and the things that he did for us in Black history, coining Black power and really telling us what Black power is? See, we get stuck on I'm Black and I'm proud. And love the music industry. But one thing that the creator said, I did not create this world for sport and play. If I did, I would have created a pastime. So while we as a people only caught up in the pastime, right now in Chicago, we have the All-Star Game happening this weekend. And it has been a lot of pomp and circumstance around this. And I was having a conversation with some of my friends, and they said, this is Black history, that this is happening in Chicago. I said, I'm going to ask you this same question Tuesday. What benefit do Black people have from this? Yes, there's a lot of famous people in Chicago right now. What have these famous celebrities done for Black people prior to this? Are we really thinking just because Chicago has the All-Star Game that we as a people will benefit? The library, the Obama Library is coming here, and they're pushing Black people out. But he's a Black man. That's Black history. He was the first Black president, according to what they say in their Black history, when we know there are 4 other presidents that have Black DNA inside of them. We talk about Abraham Lincoln. They had a whole campaign about him being Africanus Lincoln, but they erased all of that because that was a Black man. His mother was a Black woman. He had a Black mother, but they don't tell us that history because let Abraham Lincoln be a Black man. What would that do for them? Let them understand, and they have changed that man's speeches so much. Well, they're going to do the same thing with Martin Luther King if we do not snatch him back from them and teach people that he was a separatist before he died. See, so I had to bring it back to that because, again, we have lost so much of our history because we let other people tell us about it. We do not tell our story. Our history is his story. Everything about us is told by them. Everything about us is told by them. When will we start writing our story? When will we start telling our story to our people? When will we stop going to their schools and letting them validate and tell us what that history is, and then we come teach it to our people like that's our history? No, see, a lot of our scholars, that's what they did. They think they're African scholars. They went to these white schools and studied African history. From white people telling them this is African history. We got the Book of the Dead coming from a white man, his interpretation of the hieroglyphs on the wall. But we accept that as a true translation. As the people, we study that. Now we're Kemetic scholars because we got this from the white man. We love to be accredited by the white man. Why do we feel as a people that we are not validated unless not anybody else does it? Because an Arab could be in your community, he can tell you, oh yeah, you're validated. They don't do that. That does a little bit. The Asians, they can do it, but it's when a white man say, oh man, you did it. Oh man, you got it. We, as a people, are just in love with it. We have Dr. Sethi who tell black people that our health is, but then there was this one video of this white scientist breaking it down, and that went way viral. Everybody was watching this when the white man told us that the government was trying to kill us. We get this white lady who talks about racism so much, we listen to her more than we listen to Francis Warren. I know I pronounced her last name, but Dr. Francis. But this white lady talks about it so much and be making other white people feel so bad in her little lectures and some of the house, but she goes white. We as black people listen to what she has to say. She validates, yeah, it's something wrong with the white man because the white woman is telling us there's something wrong with the white man. But Farrakhan been telling us forever that the white man is the devil. Elijah Muhammad's been telling us forever that the white man is the devil. But when the white man gets up and say, oh, I'm the devil, then we believe it. Then we begin to finally believe it. We live in our communities. We see how run down they is. We see how terrible they is. But let Trump say it. Then we finally see it. Then we accept it because we mad at him for saying our communities look like trash. They look like trash before he said it. But if he validated the fact that our communities look the way they do. We understand that our children need help. We understand that violence is rampant in our communities. We talk about black on black crime, but let the white man talk about black on black crime. Watch how angry we respond to when he say it. Oh no, you can't say that. Y'all killing us anyway. But no, they validated that it's happening, so now you are responding and reacting to that situation. We as black people continually respond to things that are irrelevant to our progress. And why I say that us responding to things that are irrelevant to our progress, because as long as we seek validation from the white man, we will never progress. Let's leave that for a second. I personally believe that there was a time where black people didn't know the white man yet. Right? And we had our great civilization. We was thriving, and you can look all down the Nile Valley civilization, and you will see great empires in history. Then we met the white man. We taught the white man. We gave this white man some information. We brought him out the dark ages, and then the dark ages began for black people. Instantly, the moment that we taught the white man to stop sleeping with his animals, even though he's still doing it today, we wouldn't have syphilis if the white man didn't sleep with sheep. We wouldn't have gonorrhea. I'm not going to go into the diseases they concocted from animals, but they used to sleep. They used to sleep with their animals. They used to have to wear these masks because they didn't know what a shower was, and they just stank. I'm pretty sure when the black people found them, it was like, what is this? Their castles was dirty. Even though those used to be our castles, we don't understand that we were the first builders of castles. We don't understand. We don't understand. That's that point. We don't understand that when we look at our great architect, and I just was like, man, I wish I remember who I was listening to speak about this. When they talk, oh no, it was Sensei Butterfly. There we go. Cassiopeia's mother, she was talking about, we talk so much about these skyscrapers. When we be creating skyscrapers that they still can't understand how they were built. And they're going to stand the test of time. I swear to God, let a hurricane come to Chicago, even though it's very slightly that chance can happen. But let a hurricane come into Chicago. Let Lake Michigan rise up to a certain level. Watch how many of those buildings ain't going to stand. How many of them buildings gonna come tumbling down? It's something about that infrastructure that it doesn't last that long. It is something about ours that has stood the test of time. Thousands and thousands of years, certain pyramids have been standing. Thousands and thousands, certain years, the Sphinx has been sitting there. When we talk about some of the mounds that are in Mesoamerica, they are beautiful, and they have been sitting there for thousands and thousands of years. And some how we understand our history. See, when we think about Black history, we keep on calling ourselves the first to do something. How are we the first to do anything? The last time I checked, we are just stuck in this continuous cycle, going over and over, doing the same things again because we don't understand who our grandparents was and what our grandparents did. We are not telling the stories of our past, so we keep repeating it and thinking it's the first. We talk about Tyler Perry getting the first Black-owned movie studio production company. I'm sorry, I'm pretty sure that there was one in the 1800s when they started making movies in the early 1920s. I'm pretty sure that there was Black actors who came together and was like, no, we don't need theirs. They're not putting us in movies anyway. Let's just create our own. How many Black companies that we do not know about? See, how many of us actually know that there was a Black baseball league before we joined the MLB? How many of us know the history of that baseball league and how they hit more home runs, how they was making 10 times as much money as the MLB was making? And the MLB was like, oh, I got to buy, but we know about Jackie Robinson. We know how great of a man he was. I thought Jackie Robinson was the crap growing up. I was going to use a different word. But I thought he was the man. I'm like, what? The first Black man to play baseball? That's how they taught it. He was the first Black man to play baseball, but when this man could not even play the Negro Leagues. He was not accepted. He was subpar. He was a third rounder. They say, man, you ain't never playing. You ain't that good. But oh man, let the white man tell the story. Jackie Robinson, one of the best baseball players that ever played the game. But that man couldn't swing. He couldn't really play. The Negro League was talking about, at the time of the Negro League, the MLB, and it wasn't called the MLB at that time. But the Major League Baseball that we call today, they averaged in a year, they would hit like 40 home runs that year. The Negro League had like 120 being hit that year. We ran more bases, the game was more entertaining. And the white man was like, we need a piece of that. And they actually promised us. Integration, that is key. Oh, if y'all integrate, we'll give y'all baseball clubs, y'all training, we'll let y'all have baseball clubs. That is not one Negro-owned baseball clubs. Right? Let's think about basketball for a second. We had our own basketball league before. See, but we don't talk about this history. See, these are the things that need to be taught. Because if Black people knew we did it before, they wouldn't see a challenge in doing it today. All right? So let's talk about that for a second. We talk about a basketball league, and the white man seen us playing basketball, and they seen us doing all the extra stuff because their basketball was boring. They barely bounced the ball in their basketball. It was pass, 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 shoot. They let a Black man come in, they go see a Black man play, they dribbling the ball, they dunking it. They're like, what was that? White man, they made that whole movie, White Man Can't Jump, because the white man didn't know what a dunk was. He went to a Black person basketball game. But let's keep on going. What else have we had that we feel like we're the first of? Hockey. Now, it's hard for us to see us on skates. It's hard for us to see us driving NASCAR. Right? It's hard for us to see, because these are white-dominated sports. Oh, but believe me, you don't think Black people was racing each other in college? You don't think we were doing it a little bit better than them? See, there was a whole Black hockey team in Canada before hockey was accepted in America. They seen these Black people playing hockey and they was like, wait a second, what is this they doing? But we don't know this history. Imagine if we taught this to our children. Imagine how many of our children would actually start playing the game of hockey if they knew that there was a Black hockey team that kind of started hockey. Like, really look it up. Look up the first hockey team. It's gonna be a full Black team. That was the first hockey team. And I remember looking up all this information and being like, why aren't they teaching us this history? What are they afraid that we would do if we knew who we were? See, in the Bible, it says every knee will bow when man understands who they are. And I just paraphrase it a whole lot, but y'all know the scripture that I'm talking about. Every knee shall bow once we recognize who we are. Now let's look at that for a second. Was he talking to all humanity? Because the white man recognized who he is and who bowing down to him. It just seemed like the rest of us. The nature don't bow down to the white man. The white man been trying to control nature for a very long time, and it fights back when he tries to mess with it. Nature don't play with him, with them. Nature fights back. See, but how many times have you sat in the house and it was raining outside and you was in your head like, man, I just wish it stopped raining. And you really wanted it to stop raining. And then you went outside and guess what? It stopped raining. See, the white man can't do that. The white man ain't never been able to do that. Only thing the white man can do, and I talk about this all the time, and I made a joke about it the other day when I was in the college valley. I was like, man, there was this white man, he drove past, and I swear to God, this big gust of snow came with him. See, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I personally believe that when it came with the white man, Game of Thrones was telling us that. Somebody watch the show. Okay. You've never seen Game of Thrones.
Winter is coming.
Winter is coming. That was okay because they was telling us that when it came with the white man. They was telling us that. And Frozen. Frozen was showing us that the winter comes, the white man brings the winter. That ain't even that. Think about that for a second. What? But let me get back to Isaac. Because now I got a whole lecture about how I personally believe the white man brought the winter. Because you telling me that talking about history, you won't find coats laying around, and when you look at ancient American civilizations, find me with them wearing big old coats and bundling up. Here, shoot, Chicago used to be a swamp. Tell me one time it ever snowed in a swamp. Swamps ain't known. They not known for them to snow at all. But we are on top of a swamp, so why does it snow here? Because of the white man. Let me get back because I get stuck on that. You know, man, I'm pretty sure the Sahara Desert wasn't a desert before the white man came. I digress on that one. Because that used to be an oasis. And it used to be a desert. No, that wasn't the white man. I'm going to say the Arabs bring the sand. The white man bring the snow. The Arabs bring the sand, the white man bring the snow. Because they were the ones who, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there. But I really want to talk about Martin Luther King for a second, and I'm really going to go into it next Sunday. But he has been taught to us as integrationists. Our people have struggled, and this whole civil rights movement was focused on black people connecting commercially with the white man. We literally fought, were beaten by dogs, hosed down, blatantly murdered. From time to time, jail to sit at the same restaurants with them, to drink at the same water fountain that they drink at. We really wanted to be a part of them. We wanted something that we didn't need. Why didn't we need it? When America realized that they went through a Great Depression and black people were thriving, they say, wait a second. They would systematically take over us if we let it go like this. Think about it. Their stock markets all crashed because black people wasn't property no more. The moment they let us go and was like, we don't want to deal with them, they don't want to deal with us, and we started doing our own, it destroyed our oppressor. It defranchised, and their system began to crumble overnight. I personally believe that we can do that today. There's 13 cities that if they was a system, the bus system, so the transportation, the media, the restaurant, majority of the people that work there are black people. We drive their buses, we cook their food, we are the ones who operate the mailing system. Imagine if black people in those 13 cities, where the financial districts are really, really big, decided to not go to work for 3 days. For 3 days. Watch how their system, and we'll be good. See, we'll be good actually if we was to do that. Because, and in those same 3 days, you go out and start building the community. We do events where we are unifying and doing stuff together. We're coming together. We're raising, we're loving each other. We're teaching, we're having workshops and things, but we're not going to work for the white man. We're not going to spend $1 in their Walgreens at their gas station. Like literally for those 3 days, we don't do nothing with any other race but our own. Watch how America begs us to give us reparations.
The blackout.
Man. Thank you. We've been talking about a blackout for a very long time, but black people don't want to do that because they are afraid that we need the white man. I'm telling you, let us as a black race decide in America that we are afraid and we are no longer afraid of what would happen if we separated ourselves from the white man. And watch how the white man will come crawling to us. We fight so much to have a seat at their table. What if we told them we don't want their table? What if we was to show them that we don't need their table? Let's look at this for a second. Our kingdoms used to put gold on the wall. That they used to be lined with gold and crystals and all of this. If we had a table, I'm sorry, it's going to be a diamond table. Their table was made of wood. They going to want to sit at our table, but we don't want to build a table. We don't want to build the table. I'm sorry, the gifts and talents that we have. I just see something on Facebook that this young man scored a higher IQ than Albert Einstein and somebody else. You know what that do to the white man when we recognize that we greater than them? Do we recognize that, man, whew, I got to calm down for a second. Because when we really look at this, and again, I hear that young lady in my head telling me we need the white man. And then once I showed her, and I really broke it down to her, she was like, I gotta tell my children this. Because I never was told it that way. Many of us don't just see it that way, right? I remember it's political time, so there's gonna be a lot of black people who are gonna be kissing the butts of many politicians. They're gonna do it.
Currently.
Currently doing it, and it's a continuous thing, but their lips get a little bit perky around this. See, because when we look at the situation of our people, there are some of us who profit off of it, and then some of us who struggle through it. See, because the black man feels that without the white man's money, well, let's talk about that one. That's the best one right there. We don't need their currency.
Come on now.
What? We talk about a currency that is completely an illusion. I used to have this conversation with my mother. Do you know it's actually very easy in this system to get out of debt faster than you get into it? Like you can literally get out of debt faster in America than you get into it. Then they show you it's an illusion. You ever owed a bill and they sent you a settlement? Well, you owe them like $900 and they're selling for like $200. That tells me that their money is an illusion. It ain't nothing real about that. If I owe you $900, but you'll take $200 of my debt, is clear. Did it exist to begin with? How long are we going to be tricked that we get these credit cards from them? That we look at their credit system as something that we truly really need? That we as black people check each other's credit to see, oh man, you messed up in their world. Again, that's their world. Most of the countries that America went to war with was because they didn't take their banks. They a Federal Reserve wasn't done. They say, no, you have to be on our currency, which is why I love Gaddafi, right? And that's black history that we don't talk about. That's a major black history that we don't talk about, because when we talk about black history, let's take it off America for a second. Let's stop focusing only on this place for a second and see black history as history around this entire globe, because then we'll see ourselves as a globalist. See, we'll take it past just being stuck to this land. We'll take claims to everywhere. But let's talk about Gaddafi for a second. Let's talk about why they killed Gaddafi for a second. And why they used a blackface to do it. It's the reason why they used a blackface to do it. But Gaddafi, let's talk about what he did for the Nation of Islam for a second. This man funded Elijah Muhammad. Helped Elijah Muhammad get the nation off the ground because he needed funding. And Gaddafi was like, well, if America gets the support they need, they will be able to help the rest of us get free. So Elijah Muhammad was like, come on, Gaddafi, I'm working with you. So Gaddafi was funding the Nation of Islam. When Gaddafi tried to work with Farrakhan, who had a role way bigger than Elijah Muhammad, I heard a tape with him speak. He had a very soft voice. You know, but Farrakhan, he has a thunderous, powerful voice when he speaks. Young Farrakhan, oh my God, I remember watching one of his, oh my, this Farrakhan is powerful. But 80s Farrakhan? What? 90s Farrakhan? That is 2020 Farrakhan. He kind of sick. But 90s, what? 50-year-old Farrakhan?
Get to this point. We're not going.
Oh, we're not going to. Notice I have a beard and I'm a minister. Put it right there. I just leave it right there now. I have a beard and I'm the youth minister and I'm not the student minister. But Gaddafi was having conferences with other presidents in Africa. And he was proposing to them that Africa could have the strongest bank in the world. He said, we don't need that economy. We can create our own system and get reparations from the world. He said, if we create it, we don't need their reparations because they have to then come to us for money. No dollar on this earth is attached to anything tangible, which means it's an illusion. But if you were to make real money, which is what Gaddafi was presenting to the African countries. But then that wasn't the only thing that he presented to them. He told them, he said, why are we letting the white man create these illusion lines that separate our continent? Who said that Libya was one place and Ethiopia was another, and Nigeria was another place? He said, I'm sorry, this is one place, that this is one continent, that there shouldn't be many different governments. We should have one government that governs Africa. But we as black people don't know that that's what Gaddafi was doing. That that's what he was presenting to the rest of the African countries. That we should have one unified government. He was like, they do it over there in the UK. They do it in the United States of America. Why don't we have the United States of Africa?
Right.
Turn our countries into states and become one place. We as black people, we already call Africa a country low key. Many of us think it's a country. Man, you talk about that country over there, Africa? No, that's not a country. I don't know how many people had the correct growing up that that was a continent. But Gaddafi was trying to change that a little bit. So let's see if black people did know about that, but then they used Obama, a lot of black people's favorite president, to kill him. How many of us gonna care? How many of us gonna see him as a black leader if our black president kills him? We won't give it a second thought. Oh, he must have been a bad man. Oh, he must have just been an Arab. He must have been one of them terrorist diplomatic dictatorships that was just terrible. And then they used their people to parade him out in the streets as a criminal. When we see his sacrifice, oh my God, what they did to Gaddafi was ridiculous. But they ridiculed that man. They made that man look like it is just, man, the diabolicalness of the white man. But I say that because he was very close to doing it. He was extremely close to doing it. Yes, he was extremely close to doing it. But as I close, if we knew our history, we would not be so afraid to create our future. When we teach our children, when we teach each other, when we teach ourselves who we are, just the knowledge in itself of who Black people truly are and what we have done continuously, not just for this country, but for this entire world, then we will start to create another future. That brings an end to my lecture. So I leave you as I greeted you, even though I'm not leaving you. And Hotep Shalom, you want to do it? That's not what's stopping. Yeah. So thank you, and we ask that you tune in. If you like the message that you heard today, please donate. We have a way for you to donate on both videos if you're watching from Facebook Land, as we like to call it, Facebook Land. But I would like to invite you, this year will mark the 30th year anniversary of the Temple of Mercy Association. And this Saturday, we have our Black Heritage Banquet that is at the Prince Hall's Banquet Room, 809 East 42nd Place. We are asking that you donate $60 for a ticket, and we are going to have vendors. It is going to be a great night. A great message is going to be delivered from our founder as we really talk about clear vision. See, New Year's is coming up, and I will end with this. New Year's is coming up. We got to get our stuff together before New Year's coming. Because if we go into another year, as God told the Hebrews when they came out of Egypt, that this is your new year. Let this be the year that we come out of there. Let this be the time that we as a people see that we can do it ourselves. Let us create an autonomous nation inside of this nation and watch how this nation will be spared if we are great. I leave you as I greeted you in ancient holy words of peace and that of our ancestors. And Hotep Shalom, Assalamu Alaikum, Tabaragani, Alafia, and Ashe.